I'll give a short introduction about you.
Ready.
Yes.
Hello.
Hello. Very, very good to have you here, Francis. It's a real, real pleasure.
Same for me. Thank you for joining all these wonderful people. It will be a pleasure to talk with all you.
So a short introduction about Francis. He was born in Barcelona. Francis has written many best-selling books and received several prestigious awards. And apart from fiction, he's published extensively in the self-help, coaching, and many more fields. Francis, we all think happiness is like a butterfly, which we all want to catch, but it seems to be fleeing away, and seems like you have unlocked that catch, and Ikigai seems to have the answers. We all know Ikigai, especially in this period of lockdown, which none of us wanted. It's a book which has been very helpful to many people. It's about purpose in life and never retire and keep doing what you love. So we'll take the conversation ahead and learn more about it from you. I'll start with some Q&A, and towards the end, we will take some questions from the participants.
Perfect.
I request you all to please write your questions in the chat box if you have to ask anything to Francis. Thank you, Francis, again, and we welcome you to this.
Thank you very much.
Francis, while I was doing some research about you, I did come across that you have extensively traveled to India, and India is one of the reasons you were inspired to start a writing career. Please tell us more about it. It makes us feel proud.
Yes, actually, before traveling every year to Japan, my first contact with the Eastern world was a very important trip to India for me. It was by a time of a very deep change in which I was working in Barcelona as a publisher. I worked in an office many hours a day. I was very unhappy there because there wasn't a good human atmosphere. There was a lot of competition, a lot of mobbing, a lot of bad habits of the people who were unhappy and were working there. And then I decided to do what many Westerners did, to go to India, to have some reflection, to have some time to see the world, to see another cultures, so that I could rethink my life. And this trip was very important because it was the first time that I wrote a novel. I wrote it on a notebook with a pen every evening, the different hostels where I was. And India made me a writer because I saw so many things every day, so many different colors, people, conversations, little adventures, that it gave me the idea that the world is much wider than I thought. So it was my first inspiration, because also in India is the motherland of all the traditions, of the yoga, of the meditation, of Buddhism, of so many things. So I think it was also very important in my spiritual formation.
Amazing. Very happy to hear that. So, Francis, a lot of us have read the book, and there are many people who have joined in who have not read the book, Ikigai.
Yes.
It would be great to hear a short synopsis about what is this. And this diagram we've all seen.
The four circles. These four circles of Ikigai, they are used very often with marketing purposes when you are trying to express what is a company with Ikigai, but it can be also understood in a personal basis. So the first circle of Ikigai is what you love. So your first mission is to discover what is important for you, what is giving you pleasure. So when you do something and you enjoy it very much and you enter a state of flow and you feel that time and place disappear, you are in front of something that you love. So the first circle of Ikigai is discovering your passion, because if you love something, you're going to do it very well, and you are going to keep on in this way. The second circle of Ikigai is what you are good at. So maybe you love something, but you are not especially good in that. For instance, I am not an sports person. So I can love soccer, football, but it doesn't mean that I have the capacity to play in a league. So maybe I love something, but I am not good at that. But if you have the two circles of Ikigai, if you love one thing and you are good at that, then these two circles together give you a passion. So a passion would be the passion of a writer, the passion of an educator, the passion of a businesswoman, a businessman that is doing something. They have ability to that and they love doing that. Then let's go to the third circle of Ikigai. Now, I would go to the right. What does the world need? So when you love to do something and you are good at that and the world needs that, then you have a mission because you are doing something that is good for you, that is easy for you, and that is good for the world. So then we have profession, we have passion, and we have mission. Then the fourth circle of Ikigai in the down of the graphic, what you can be paid for. So the ideal position for you is that you love to do something, you are good at that, the world is looking for that too, and you get paid for that. Then this is your profession, this is your vocation, this is your mission, and this is your passion. But it doesn't happen always. Sometimes we can have an Ikigai next to a professional life. Maybe you are working in an office, maybe you are working in a bank, maybe you are a web page designer, and this is not your Ikigai, but in your free time, your Ikigai is working in an NGO, preparing projects, painting, playing an instrument. So Ikigai, it doesn't need to have the four circles. It can be also something that gives you life, that gives you energy and motivation, and that you can do it besides something that you do for earning your life.
Okay, yeah, very interesting. So I was going to come to this as well, Francis. I may have a passion for something. I may be very creative. I may love to paint, but I may not necessarily be able to earn the remuneration out of it. So eventually, what is a transition that one has to do to
Yes.
achieve an ikigai where I genuinely love what I do? And
Yes.
usually they're working to get some kind of remuneration to earn a living. So this transition seems really difficult. What do you
It's a matter of passions. I think that any person in the world has started doing something as a hobby. And when this hobby becomes very important, it's more than a hobby, it's already a passion, it's already a mission in life, then you take some time to change your actual world for something future in which you can develop this passion. But how does it work? And I can put you a very easy example with myself. I loved writing, but I didn't know I was able to do a living with that. It was something I did in short stories, maybe writing a poem, writing a short tale, writing my reflections. And I didn't know that I could have this activity as a profession. So I had another jobs. I was translating, I was working as a publisher, I was working as an editor, I was teaching, I was doing many things because writing was not important enough then, because this is a matter of hours, of time. There is this interesting book of Malcolm Gladwell, I think it's called Outfits, in which he measured that to be excellent in anything you do, you need 10,000 hours of practice. So if I start today to play guitar, electric guitar, I cannot pretend to be a professional. I must go to work. But maybe after 10,000 hours of playing guitar, maybe I can be a professional musician. Maybe I can work in a studio having a band, play, recording albums, but it's a process. And the result depends on how much are you going to invest from your life in that passion. If it's a little passion, like somebody who is collecting stamps, you are not going to be a professional in that. But if you put all your free time in there, maybe in 2, 3, 4, 5 years, you're going to do only that when you are ready and you have already done your way, and then you can live back what was your life and start a new one.
So it's a lot like a part-time Ikigai.
Yes, it's perfect to have a part-time Ikigai. And if we look at history, we find a lot of examples. For instance, in Europe, in the Western literature, the best author of the 20th century is considered to be Franz Kafka. He was the most original, different. When you read the Metamorphose, the Castle, these are very impressive text novels. But he didn't work as a writer. He was a lawyer, a very good lawyer, working for an insurance company that nowadays exists still, called Assicurazioni Generali. And he was going every day 8 hours to the office as a lawyer, that it was not his Ikigai. And then when he came back home, he dedicated 4, 5, 6 hours to writing. And now the whole world knows this writing of Kafka, but it was never a profession for him. He didn't live from that. And there are many cases of people who are doctors, who are teachers, who are civil servants, that they have a side passion, and that maybe in many years, or maybe after you are dead, it will become very important for the world. Maybe this is your legacy. And so passion must not always be related with money. Sometimes it's even better that you don't depend on that. That's something that I always tell in the workshops for writers when they are very young. I tell them, it's better for you that you don't find success too early, because if you are living from your writing and you depend totally on the sellings of your book, you are totally conditioned when you're writing. So you write a novel and you depend on the economical results of that novel to pay your taxes, to pay your bills, to pay everything of your life. Then there is no artistical freedom there. It's much better that you have a job and in the free hours you write whatever you want and you feel free for that.
Okay, amazing. Francis, I also heard you say that the Ikigai kind of changes over years. And
Yes.
I really would want to know what has been your Ikigai and how is that transformed over years?
Yes, I think the Indian religions speak a lot about reincarnation, but there are also reincarnations into the same life. So when everything falls apart, now it's happening with the COVID pandemic. Many people is going to restart because the world they knew or the jobs they had don't exist anymore. So, but it happens also individually. When you are no more a child and you start being an adult. So the Ikigai that you had as a child, maybe you wanted to be an astronaut or a professional dancer, I don't know. You lose that from sight and you have a second Ikigai. Then maybe when you get married, when you have a family, when you get divorced, when you change your city or your country, because you must restart again. So inside a life, there are many deaths and rebirths. And every time you are reborn, your Ikigai changes. So, and I have had, I think, 3 or 4. When I was a child, I wanted to be naturalist and working with animals and all this. And then I had an Ikigai to be a teacher. I had a very strong wish of teaching German language to students. Then I had an Ikigai to be a publisher, then to be a writer. And it's changing because every time we change, our priorities change too. So it's not bad at all. It's normal that during one life, you can have 3, 4, 5 main ikigais, because maybe you have already given everything from you to that activity. You have completed your way, and then you need to start something new. And there is a very nice word in English, that's the late bloomers. The late bloomers are these people who, in an old age, sometimes with 60, 70, 75, they discover a passion and they had never done that. And maybe they will have the happiest times of their lives these last years because they discover that they love to paint, they love to teach children, they love to do something that they couldn't do before because all their time was compromised with obligations.
Right, right. So, like he just mentioned that there is so much that has changed around the world. Many businesses have changed, many jobs have changed. And because of this, there is a lot of depression issues, mental illness that is coming across. It's mainly because people lose the purpose of life. And that's what leads to the traumatic situation they are in. And this is especially very true in the millennials, the younger generation. How do you think we can take this concept of ikigai and reach out to the millennials and make sure that nothing drastic happens with them?
But I think the millennials are the people more prepared for changes because before the crisis, before the pandemic, the millennials were a subject of study in the world of professions. And something that is typical from the millennials is that when they are not happy anymore in a job, they quit. Our parents didn't do that. So my father, for instance, he worked, I don't know, 35 years of his life in a job that he didn't like, but he thought he had to go to the office, bring the money to the family, and to be a respectable man. The millennials don't think like that. They are not going to be in a workplace just because they get money. They need also to be happy, to be realized. And so I think the millennials that maybe they are in shock in front of the situation of the world right now, they will be quicker than other people to reinvent themselves because actually the economy of the world, the richness is always the same. So money doesn't disappear, moves from one place to the other. So always when there was a very deep crisis like now, like the crisis of 29 in United States, the one of 2008, there are people who become very, very rich because they see where the money goes, they start new opportunities, they open startups that they can be very important. So this is now a very interesting field for people who are very creative. And to be creative in this situation is to understand what the world is needing right now. This was the third circle of Ikigai. When you understand that in this present situation, people is needing this service, this product, this profession, this X, then you can have very good opportunities in there.
So, I mean, we could work reverse in the circle, start what the world needs, and then maybe see where the money is, and then start
professionally. Yes, people who were genius, like Steve Jobs or Bill Gates, they knew already what the world needed years before. So they knew that in 1, 2, 3, 5 years, everyone is going to need this, and we are going to give it some years before. So people who are visionary, people who can think a bit in a large term, they can do a lot of things. And I think we are coming in a difficult age in the way that maybe it will be much more difficult to have a salary, to be part of a company where you have your social insurance, where you have your medical care, where you have your salary. And there will be many, many people who will become freelance because the world goes in this direction. Here in Spain, we had the tradition of paying people to be 8, 9 hours into a chair. So it was a presential politics of working. But to have a person in a desk 8 hours, it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean that it's richness for the company. It can, maybe this person is chatting, maybe this person is doing nothing. So in future, the freelancers will have many opportunities because they will have a value because of what they do, not the time of if they are here, if they are in another. In this way, there are a lot of people who is moving from one place to the other, and the office is in the computer, and they can do many things, and maybe they are in Tibet, or they are in the United States, or they are in Andaman Islands. So we are going to see many changes in this way.
Right.
The talent of every individual will be the big thing to sell, the talent that you have.
Very well said, Francis. So also in your book, you've given some great actionable advice for reducing stress and fragility with the concept of wabi-sabi, a very popular belief of Japan that only imperfect objects are truly beautiful because they're closest to the nature. Could you elaborate a little bit more about this philosophy and how this can be incorporated in our lives?
Yes, it's a very nice Japanese philosophy that it's the philosophy of the Japanese aesthetics too. If we look at very expensive, a very expensive Japanese cup, maybe it's old, maybe it has a crack, it has been repaired, maybe it's uneven, and they love these cups that are imperfect, that are maybe they were broken and they were put together again, because they say that these are objects that have a history, that have a story to tell. And then for them, the wabi-sabi philosophy is that it's only beautiful what is similar to nature, and it means 3 laws. So everything that is imperfect, everything that is not forever, and everything that is incomplete, because in nature, nothing is totally round or totally straight. Nothing is forever because everything is dying and being reborn again, and nothing is complete. Always is always changing. So in a psychological, from a psychological point of view, if you live in a wabi-sabi way, you understand, you have the humility, you are humble enough to acknowledge that you are not perfect. And this is a good news, because when you know you are not perfect, you know that you have a way to grow. People who think that are perfect normally cause a lot of suffering on others, because they think they are perfect, and then they try that everyone in the world adapt to their idea of perfection, and they are rigid, and they are always smashing the expectancies they have from what reality should be. Then wabi-sabi philosophy says that we must improvise, because every day the nature, the Tao of things is moving from one direction to another, that we will be always incomplete, we will never be perfect, and that good thing is to move every day one step forward, and accepting others' imperfections so that they can accept yours. So this is a more human way of relating each other, basically without judging and without expectations.
That's a beautiful concept.
Yes.
So this concept of Ikigai came from Okinawa, where also I think karate came from. It's a very rich island of Japan. And also I read that this community lives together and there's a lot of support from each other, and that's one of the reasons of the longevity of the lives of the people living there. How is it different, the community living in Okinawa compared to other parts of the world?
Actually, the way of living of Okinawa is more similar to India than to Tokyo or Osaka, where people is always working, everyone is very serious, everything is very important, everyone is stressed. Okinawa is tropical, subtropical climate. It's the poorest part of Japan. It's the place also where the Second World War was more difficult, because they had this Battle of Okinawa with thousands of people. But even when they are the poorest ones and the ones who suffered more during the war, they are the happiest and the ones who live more. And it is very interesting. And one thing is, we were back with Hector Garcia in Okinawa 6 months ago to shoot a documentary with National Geographic. And we discovered that there are many Americans who live there, thousands, who have married people from Okinawa, they have family together. These Americans, they have learned Japanese, basically. And one of these, he said, do you know what is one secret because these people is living so long? It's okay what you have written, the Ikigai and the Okinawa Diet and all this. And he said, for me, the key is that they have the philosophy of forgiveness. They have forgiven the parents and the grandparents of these Americans who live there, and they treat them like friends, like sisters, like brothers, and they don't have problems with the past. What past, it's in another part of my life, and I don't want to have this burden upon me. And there is a traditional saying in Okinawa that is, once we have sit together to the same table, all of us are brothers and sisters. And this is very important for the peaceful and happy way of living, because when you live hating other people with resentment, with a lot of issues of the past, it's impossible to be happy, and it's impossible to live very long either.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Americans settle in Okinawa.
Mm-hmm. Many people, because first of all, they came there because they like surf, and Okinawa is a perfect place for surfing, but then they get in love with the local culture and they defend all this. So it's interesting how they have accepted the grandsons and grand daughters of the invaders.
Yeah. But overall, Japanese, so Francis, they have a very simple way of doing things. And I know you have studied the Japanese culture so deeply, written 3 books about it along with Hector. Be it artisans, engineers, technology companies like Mitsubishi, Toyota, cuisine, Zen philosophy, all of these have come from Japan. Very sophisticated, very deep concepts, but so simple. With your experience in Japan, could you share more about this simplicity and still complicated things that they do?
Yes, actually in Japan, we find both. They love simplicity. And if we look at the Japanese design, they use very little ornaments. They like that things are plain, that a house has maybe no paintings inside, and they play with the shades and all this. But also in the progress, they have 2 different approaches to change. They have the Kaizen, that is very famous because they use it in the Toyota factory in the 50s, I think, to produce the most perfect car in the world. And this Kaizen system is improving every day one thing. And it's very useful also for everyone. So if you know already what is your direction in life, what is your Ikigai, and every day you do a single thing for that, writing an email, studying a little, reading, developing something, talking to a mentor, then in 100 days, you will have had 100% of progress. So the Japanese are very good in the Kaizen, in taking a small step every day in the same direction, so that every day they become this 1% better. And then they have also another way of working with change, that is what we call with Hector the Shinkansen effect. And Shinkansen is the name in Japanese of the bullet train, the very rapid train, that they invented that in the 50s when they had to organize the Olympics of Tokyo. They had a problem with the mobility of the people participating in that, with the journalists, with the people of sports, with everyone, because Japan has a very difficult geography, and they needed a train much quicker than they had by that time. By that time, 100 kilometers per hour was the normal, the maximum speed for a train. And they needed the double, 200. And then the designers of this train, that's why we call it Shinkansen train, Shinkansen effect. They said, if we have a train going 100% per hour and we need the double, we need goes to 100% per hour, we need to rethink the concept of train, because then the rail will be different. It needs to be wider and higher. The materials cannot be the same because it's too heavy. Then we need to use aluminum and other things. The shape of a train, it cannot be like that. By that time, they were squared because there is resistance to the air, and then it must be more similar to a bird. So they invented the bullet train, and they could do it in the end of the 50s already. They had trains 200 kilometers per hour, and it can be applied also to personal life. Sometimes you need Kaizen only in your life. You need accumulative change. You need to be every day a bit better. Maybe practicing writing, practicing an instrument, doing a company, a project as an entrepreneur for a midterm. But sometimes you need to restart from zero, and then you need a Shinkansen strategy. It means nothing of what I am is useful for me right now, because I don't like my life. I don't like the people with whom I am. I don't like the place where I live. I don't like nothing. So you need to rethink everything from zero. So if I didn't have this history, this personal story that I have, what would I be? And then you can reinvent every aspect of your life. Japanese are also good for that.
Wow, very interesting. So while writing this book, you interviewed so many people in Okinawa. I think hundreds of those people. Any favorite words of wisdom that stuck with you and you can share with all of us?
Actually, these people were very interesting because they were so simple. We must think that this little village, that they have the Guinness record of longevity, it's only 2,800 people, but it's a rural place. They live harvesting fruits and working on the gardens. They have a very, very simple life. And from the point of view of somebody living in a city, they do every day the same. They wake up with the sun, they work in the garden, they do some exercise, that this radio taisho, that they did it following instructions in the radio and nowadays on TV too. And then they visit friends, they eat with the friends, they celebrate together. And it's a very, very simple life that maybe from somebody on a city can look like something boring, but it's not boring for them, because Milan Kundera, the Czech author, said that happiness is the wish of repeating. So when you love someone, you like being every day with this person, and you like repeating these rituals. So what these people do is a very simple life in harmony with nature, in harmony with the sun and the night, and with a big sense of community. So really, these people living together in different houses, they are like brothers and cousins. They help each other. They know everything of the other, and they are always together. That's a key point for them.
Right, and I'm sure they're not on social media, where all the stress comes
because
from.
it's in the jungle, between jungle and a little mountain, and they don't have internet coverage there. They use still the telephone with the cable. When we were there working and we wanted to send our images to magazines and to the publisher, we need to go up to a hill to be near a meteorological station. And in the rest of the village, they don't have 3G or something like that. And they live better, because if they want to tell something to the neighbor, they just open the door and they walk 10 minutes and they say, hello, I have these tomatoes here, how are you? And quite more natural life, analogical life.
Oh, amazing, amazing. How many days did you end up staying in Okinawa?
Well, we had been already in Japan. Hector lives in Japan, and I have been in Japan 8-9 times. We had been investigating before, but the interviews were maybe 10 days. We did a very little documentary for YouTube also, and we had been 1 year reading papers and books and different studies of nutrition and other aspects of the culture in Okinawa.
Okay, great. So, Francis, one last question from me. Then we are taking questions from the audience. They have put up some on the chat box. So, if you could recommend any books to us, any self-help books or anything, please do write in the chat, or you can let us know now. We would love to get some ideas from you.
It depends on what is your interest, what is your dream, what is your Ikigai. But I would say, as a general formation for anyone, the book of Viktor Frankl, The Man in Search of a Meaning. This is a very important book of the 20th century. So I would recommend anyone to read it, The Man in Search of a Meaning. And then, depending on what is your plan in life, if it's something more artistic, more social, if it has to be with business, we would find very good books, because there are people who not only make their dreams true, but they like to share it, and they like to teach other people to follow its way. So I would start with the Viktor Frankl book, and then depending on what they decided to put in the center of their life.
Okay, thank you. So, okay, starting with the Q&A. The first question is from Kinjal. She's asking, how do you as an individual prepare for the future, or do you believe in living one day at a time? This question is more in mind, keeping in mind the millennials who are running to secure a future right now.
Yes, one thing that we have discovered with all this pandemic is that future cannot be predicted anymore. So before, we used to read journalists about tendencies, and they said, okay, there will be next crisis in 3 years, and now is a good time for this or for that, and this will happen. It's over. Yeah, I think first thing we should do is not to make any kind of prognostication about the future. You put the word future out of your dictionary, and then you think, what can you do today with what you are doing? If you are working in a project, if you are working on a company, if you are together with friends, if you are doing something personal, think, what is the best that I can do, that I can give from myself today? And tomorrow you do it again, and the day after tomorrow. And then in this Kaizen rhythm, you can get to a very good future. But we cannot know. We don't know what will happen. In Spain, they say, maybe in September we'll have another lockdown, or maybe not. So we cannot depend of external things. We must do as much as possible in our daily lives to go in the direction that we have decided internally.
Right. Absolutely. The second question is from Parav Shah. She's asking, the purpose of technology is to make our lives simpler. But from the point of Ikigai, is it really making our purpose of life more complex? It's like a paradox.
That technology is very useful for the human being, but when it takes the central place of your life, it's more a problem than a help. So the problem nowadays is the multitasking. So people is trying to do many things at the same time. So you are sitting in a cafe with a friend, and you are trying to speak about something important, and this person maybe is looking at the screen all the time, what happens in WhatsApp, what happens in Twitter, in Instagram. And so he or she is there and is not there. So we have lost the mindfulness of being in one place with all our energy, with all our love and time. No? And then I think technology, it's okay if we can have some technological diets too. So, for instance, doctors say that if you go to bed with your tablet or with your smartphone, you are going to sleep bad because the screen has is exciting your ocular nerves, and then you don't relax the hour before to sleep. So what is recommended to have a digital diet is at least 2-3 hours before going to sleep to put off all the devices and to go back to the analogic, maybe having a book, having a conversation, going for a walk. And in United States, many people have a day off, maybe on Sunday, that they don't use any technology. And if we look at these big names of the Silicon Valley, like the family Gates or Steve Jobs, they didn't allow their sons and daughters to use what they were selling. So it means something. So technology, it's okay if you take it as an assistant. When the technology is the boss, you have a problem because then you are the assistant of the mobile phone.
Correct, right. So the next question is from Meera. How do you keep a check on yourself to be aware of your inner Ikigai, and how do you weigh it? Like, I mean, you may have, I think what she's trying to ask is you may have 2 or 3 things, and how do you weigh what's more important and what is the Ikigai for you?
I would say the check on Ikigai has to do with happiness. When you are perfectly happy with your life, you don't need to check your Ikigai. You are okay, because that you are into your Ikigai has to do with personal flow. When you are flowing with your life and you are waking up happy and you are active and you are feeling okay and you are energetic and you are full of projects and ideas, you are on the right track. Problem is when depression comes, anxiety, doubts, then you feel lost, you don't know anymore if this is what you should be doing. This is the alarm, an alert that makes you think, am I in the right place right now? Or maybe I should go moving to another place. So I would say that these checkings that are important of Ikigai have to do with crisis. When you feel in crisis, even a small crisis in your job, maybe your Ikigai has moved to some other topic and you should introduce some change.
Right, right. Okay, so next question, Francis, is from Radhika. She's talking about our lives as women, and today our entire panel of people here on the webinar are women, and women are generally multitaskers as mothers,
Yes.
wives, daughters, and we tend to lose or compromise our own Ikigai in the process. So she's asking, how do we prioritize ourselves? We become the last. Our Ikigai becomes the last. So how do we balance
I
that
think
up?
this is a very difficult question because it's a cultural question in which women are, it's understood that women must be like super heroines, that they must do everything, good mothers, good cooks, good in the table, good lovers, good in the businesses. But I think it depends very much in which kind of pact do you have with your couple. Especially women who are young nowadays, and maybe they are not married, it's very interesting that they explore what kind of person are they going to link their lives. Because if you need to do multitasking because your husband is doing nothing at home, you will never develop your Ikigai. Then you are obliged that Ikigai is family. You cannot choose another Ikigai. And of course, in Europe, there are many women who have no family for this reason, because they want to become professionally successful. But I think if there is a good dialogue, a good communication with the couple, it's possible that both parts, they can develop Ikigais, and that they have at least some hours, 1 hour, 2 hours a day should be available for everyone to develop even these small Kaizen movements to a new future that you are wishing. So it's a thing that you need to talk very clearly, and you need to come to some pact so that you can develop in that way.
Yeah, so you've added a new word to our dictionary, Francis, Kaizen. Now, with
Yes. Hello? Oi. Now, yes.
sorry, I got a technical glitch. Okay. The next question is from Samta Bed. She's saying that you talk about flow in your book and how the happiest people spend more time in that state of flow. Could you elaborate about how we can formulate this flow in our daily lives?
This flow was a very interesting study of an author with a very difficult name, Mihai. The book is called Flow. It was a very successful in the United States. It's of a psychologist of Hungarian origin. And he was studying when and where people felt happy during the week. And he did this test with thousands of people who noted those moments in the week in which they felt extremely happy. Happiness is a state of flow that you know, don't think of the past, don't think of the future, don't think of what time is it. So, and they discovered that most people have this state of flow during the work. And it was a surprise because they thought, these investigators, that the flow would be more probable to be during Saturday or Sunday or during the free time, but it was not, because really what makes us happy is when we are solving problems. So somebody who is very competent in his or her job and solves a problem, there is a state of accomplishment, a state of realization. And so the flow is what it's a sign of happiness, and it's a sign of Ikigai, because it means that you are in your element. It means that you are doing what the world needs from you. And so, and in this book, in this American book, Flow, it's explained what are the signs of flow. One is that all your mind, all your senses are in the task that you are doing. So you are not in the past, you are not in the future, you are not in the social media, you are only there. Second, that this thing that you are doing, it's easy for you, but not too easy. If it's something that is too easy, then you get bored. And if you get bored, there isn't flow then. You need something that is a challenge for you, but a challenge not too big so that it causes you stress. And something that gives you also a sense of being useful to the world. So all of us want to be useful to others, want to bring something good to the world. So when you're in this state, being what you are called to do, doing it in a good way, being useful to the world, then you are in a full state of flow. You are flowing with your life, you are flowing with your passion, you are in the right direction then.
Okay, wonderful. The next question is from Ranjana Agarwal. She's talking about the nutrition that you've also mentioned in the book. There is specific nutrition that the Okinawas follow. You could give a very quick brief about that as well.
Yes, this is very interesting. The Okinawa diet, it has been studied by thousands of doctors and nutritionists of the world. But actually, this kind of nutrition is also common in all Japan. In Japan, they have a lot of stress, but they have not many problems in obesity. They have less cancer. They have less cardiovascular problems than the rest of the world because they have a law in their way of eating that is the law of 80%. That it means that a Japanese person, and especially in Okinawa, never eats as much as the hunger that they have. So it means that if you have 5 small dishes on the table and you would eat the 5, you eat only 4, and you keep a little hunger for the next meal. And this has been proven to be very, very influential in the longevity, because it's when we are eating too much, more than the hunger we have, it's like driving a car at maximum potential speed. So we are forcing the engine. And the same happens with the body. If we are eating always a little less of what we need, our system has a lighter work and can live many more years.
Okay, yeah, 80% full diet.
The 80% diet, yes.
So we have Rekha Reddy. She's talking about herself. She says, I'm an Ikebana artist. I'm doing it with passion and mission. It is not my profession, vocation yet. How far am I from Ikigai?
Maybe she's 100% in the Ikigai during the time in which she's practicing Ikebana. There are some activities in which it's very difficult to make a living from that. For instance, if you are a meditator, you love meditation, it's very difficult that you get paid for your meditation, even if you have if you have students, even so. And with Ikebana, living in India, it will be something curious, something nice that maybe you can do an exhibition, maybe you can have some pupils, maybe she can write a book for a niche of readers that are also passionate with that. But it's not a problem that is not her profession. The important thing is that she follows this passion and she develops always a bit further in that. So while she's practicing Ikebana, she's 100% in her Ikigai, and then she has other lives inside the same day.
Right. So one last question, Francis, before we end the discussion. It's from Pooja, and she's asking that in the journey of life, a lot changes, and one changes with interest and passion as well. Does it mean that we have not found our Ikigai if we continuously keep changing? Or is it okay to have multi-dimensional Ikigais at the same time?
It is okay to have different Ikigais along life. There will be always one that is the main one. So you can have secondary Ikigais, but normally there is one thing that is your passion every time of your life. And then you know it because this is the thing that you enjoy more, and you think more in that thing that in many other aspects of your life. And it's okay that it changes, as we were telling, because if we change as people individually, what we do change too. So we are like a mirror of our Ikigais, and you can have as many Ikigais as the changes in your life. There are people who are very solid, children who in school, they wanted to be doctors. This is very rare that children normally already know which will be their Ikigai. And they become doctors and they love their job their whole life. But this is not the normal one. The normal is that you go discovering then one thing, then one other. Maybe you work 1 year, 2 years, an activity that is giving you some pleasure, some teachings, and then you discover that it was not exactly that, and you must do something else. So it's totally normal to be an explorer the rest of your life, and that Ikigais are provisional.
Right. And I have one very interesting question. So I'm going to throw that in last. If money making is your profession and your passion, are you practicing Ikigai from Deval?
It will be not a very deep Ikigai, because if your Ikigai is accumulation of money, but for instance, to have all this money in your bank account, you don't have time for yourself, because normally people who are working in Wall Street or in financial world, they work 16 hours a day or 18. So what is the use of all this money if you cannot enjoy it? So maybe if your obsession is money, maybe you are covering something that you should discover and that you are blocking from yourself. But normally Ikigais have to do with service to others. And maybe if you want to make a lot of money to raise a foundation, to do something good for the world, it can become an Ikigai. But if it's money only for yourself, it has no connection with others, it has no connection with reality. So maybe it's I would say it's more an obsession.
All right. Thank you so much, Francis. It was a great deep discussion, and so many new concepts that we've learned from you today about the Japanese culture, Ikigai. We will try to apply as much of this as possible. Thank you for taking time and speaking with us.
Thank you very much for your attention, and have a very nice summer full of projects and dreams, and follow your Ikigai. Thank you.
Thank you. And before our members leave, I just want to let you all know that we've started the renewal process for Flow membership. Please, as soon as possible, reach out to the membership team, either Prachi Goswami or Radhika, and complete the process. The last date for renewal is 10th of July. So thank you very much for joining in. I really appreciate all your time. And thank you, Zero Gravity, for being our media partner. See you all in the next event. Thank you.